Hey y'all. So you might have seen I made a video talking about gumbo. We go into the history of gumbo, how it's made, the different varieties and things like that. And to make this video, to illustrate the video, I decided to make gumbo. And I was thinking, look, well, if we're going to be shooting some footage for this, why don't we just shoot the entirety of me stirring a roux for the gumbo? And that's what we did. So there's just an hour and a half long continuous shot of me stirring a roux and also doing the rest of the gumbo stuff at the end. While Andrew and I just chat, mostly about gumbo, but about other stuff too. And so if that sounds interesting to you, watching a video of us just talk for an hour and a half, basically like a feature length film, you can check out this video and learn more about gumbo and random New Orleans facts. And you should also check out the gumbo video. All right. We're going to make a roux, y'all. So when you make a roux, you're going to want to use a 1-to-1 ratio of flour and whatever cooking agent you're using. We're going to use peanut oil.
Peanut oil.
Peanut oil, any neutral oil generally is recommended. So vegetable oil, stuff like that is typically fine. I use peanut oil partly because it has a higher smoke point.
Yeah.
So it's a little more forgiving if you need it to be. So you get flour all over the floor. That's fine. Down at
Is
the
it
edges
gumbo
of this
if
bag.
you don't make a mess?
Yeah. All right. Now the important thing about the 1-to-1 ratio to remember is that it is by weight. So you generally want to use a little less oil or lard if you're using lard. If you're using a measuring cup, than you would flour. I'm using roughly 3/4 cups oil to 1 cup flour.
Get to see our starting color. I would say this is, what color would you call this, Mafo?
This is
Flower white. Yeah. Do you have a color that you like? Do you have a name for the color you aim for?
I feel like this is. It feels like, you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of like paper mache.
Paper mache, which is also made out of flour and water, so
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. How would you describe the target color?
Well, it depends on what you're going for. I mean, different people will go for different darknesses or different shades of brown. Now, when you're making a roux, in most French cooking, like if you're making a bechamel sauce or something like that, you're generally going to be doing a pretty light roux. It's not going to get a whole lot darker than what you see here. You're usually going to be mixing dairy into it as well, which you would never do in Louisiana. And in Louisiana, we do much darker roux. Now, how dark you go is going to vary partly depending on what part of Louisiana you live in, or more specifically, where your cultural heritage is. So here in New Orleans, generally when people cook a roux, especially historically, they'd use some kind of animal fat, so bacon fat or lard or something like that. With animal fats, it makes a rich, thick roux, and correspondingly rich and thick gumbo. But you can't get it too dark because animal fats would start to burn if you keep it on the flame too long. So a Creole roux tends to be like around a peanut butter color, maybe like a shade darker than that. Whereas Cajuns use oil, which is what I'm using today. This is partly because oil costs less, and Cajuns generally had a bit less spending money than Creoles did. Cajuns were living out on their own in the countryside, whereas the Creoles were living in the city and were usually at least middle class. A lot of Cajuns were subsistence farmers and trappers and things like that. So oil was plentiful and relatively cheap. But oil has a higher smoke point, so you can get it hotter and you can get a darker roux.
And
a Cajun roux might be anywhere from like milk chocolate to dark chocolate in color.
This is like naming paint colors, but we have to be able to be a little more precise with it. It's it's an art meets a science, as is so often the case with food. What temperature are we at? What kind of
So we're like
heat setting?
medium low.
We're getting a little bit of sizzle. We're just starting to get there.
Some people might go lower than that. Some people do it like real low for real long. We don't want to be here forever. So.
I have never stood with you through the entire roux making process.
Why
How long are you typically
you?
doing this? Because you asked me to.
So generally, I would be doing this for at least 30 minutes, usually closer to 45. Some people, like our friend James, is brave. He will like high heat that stuff and have it done like 15 or 20 minutes. It makes me nervous. I can't.
James is like a process improvement person, so he probably knows like the exact temperature that he can get things to.
That's true. I'm not nearly as methodical as he is.
But still, also James is a like, well, good enough kind of guy as well. He has a good roux though. Yeah. So, and you're on kind of the middle of the spectrum as far as how long people spend doing this.
Yeah, because some people spend over an hour doing their roux, especially if you're doing it on real low heat. Now there are alternatives to making a roux
that don't require quite as much masochism / showing off.
Yeah. So one of the main ways is people will bake the flour, just unmixed flour, in their oven for a period of time until it browns. And then they'll mix that in with like oil or something after the fact and sort of have a roux that's kind of ready to go, so to speak. I've never done that. Some people swear by it. I'm not going to comment on it. I will say that I think the masochism, as you said, of standing at the altar of Louisiana cuisine feels necessary to me. Like I'm not going to make a gumbo if I'm not going to make a roux. If I don't have the time to do it, I'll just make jambalaya or something. So
yeah,
very essential.
Just as real and local with just less of the masochism. The masochism is an ingredient.
There's also, you can get store-bought roux, which I'm pretty sure will get you immediately excommunicated from the Catholic Church, even if you aren't Catholic. They'll just like do it ahead of the fact.
Just in case you ever converted, they'll just,
This is like
kick you right out the door. Look, good luck getting through a life in New Orleans without going to a Catholic wedding at some point, at least. You can't get barred from every Catholic building and live here, no matter how much. My Buddhist partner went to Catholic school. It is just that universal of an institution here.
And if you look at the roux here, so you'll see little bubbles bubbling. That is the water in the flour evaporating. So those will eventually die down, and it'll just be real smooth as it gets a little bit darker.
Rafa's faking this for us. There's champagne in that roux.
Yeah, it's a cocktail.
A thickened cocktail. Roux. Gross. Cocktails with flour in them.
It's terrible.
We've come up with some gross cocktails over time. See our series, Noir City Blues. You were talking about the difference between Cajun and Creole roux, and I know we have to explain this all the time. It's like one of the most frequently asked questions. I don't know that I've ever heard your explanation for it. How do you talk about it?
Most of this frame in terms of, kind of as I was saying before, how you're just dealing with two different like groups of people in different socioeconomic circumstances. And so now, of course, it's more of a cultural thing. Obviously, Cajuns now can afford to buy blard or whatever else they want. But
thanks, oil
because
fields.
Because they've been doing it for so long. To be clear, when he says oil fields, he doesn't mean that the oil that we're using comes from petroleum. He means that a lot of people who are Cajun work.
If you're a real Cajun, a petroleum-based roux is the only way to show your gratitude. Oh my God.
And so what started as necessity became tradition, which is, kind of par for the course. That is a cultural I would say culture is, to a large extent, the turning of what is essential into what is chosen.
Yeah. I mean, who would ever choose this? This is the like
I could actually go.
Creole grandma version of like Italian grandmothers making pasta in all kinds of shapes. Like totally uncalled for, but
Yeah.
also a point of enormous pride and a little bit of a status symbol.
Just unnecessary flour difficulties.
And if you couldn't afford a cast iron gallery on your house, this was a way to boast of your disposable something or other. Time, if not money.
Now, generally, when you're cooking a roux, part of the reason you have to stir it constantly is because if you don't, it will burn, and that causes issues. If it burns even a little bit, you got to start the whole thing over again. It's like a process. And I've had that happen once. It was miserable. You're like 20 minutes into it, and you're like, well, here we go again. So occasionally, like here, you can see that there's actually some dark bits. I think this is just residue from the pan, from the cast iron.
Seasoning.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about that because the texture also changes a lot when you start to burn it. It gets clumpy. Mm-hmm. So you have to stir it constantly, which means you cannot leave the roux at any point. Fortunately, I have Andrew here, so if any emergencies come up, he can handle them. But if I were making gumbo at home alone, I wouldn't be able to leave. I wouldn't be able to leave the room.
Yeah, less sous chef than SOS chef is kind of what the person hanging with you is.
So if your phone is ringing and you don't have it on you, it's just going to ring in the other room. And if someone's at the door, like knocking, they're going to have to come back later. Because you cannot leave.
Did we put up the "Sorry, I'm stirring a roux" sign on the front door? I can't remember.
I think we forgot. That's going to be an issue. And actually, there's a little anecdote that is very illustrative of this fact. One time, I was making gumbo, and like anytime I make gumbo, I'm going to have people over. It's going to be a whole thing. I'm going to have a party. I actually read a great thing by Brightson, the chef.
I'm imagining right now, I'm so sorry to interrupt, like someone trying to make gumbo for one and just stirring the tiniest roux. Just to make a single serving of gumbo.
That's
so ridiculous.
Sad. Such a tremendous waste of time.
I'm just imagining someone who like recently moved here and is like a Bon Appetit subscriber or something.
Yeah, that's accurate.
I'm so sorry.
This
anyway,
serves 2 people. No, that's not how it works. It serves at least 10.
2 people for a month.
Yeah.
So you were saying about Mr. Brightson?
Yeah. So Brightson, he's a chef. He was the former executive chef at Commodus Palace back when they were still cutting edge, and he currently has his own restaurant, Brightson's, which is one of my favorite restaurants in the city.
Tip top, yeah.
And he, in an interview that I read with him once, he said that you don't make gumbo, you make a gumbo. And it's an event. It's always like, noteworthy. It's always, always gonna have people around because it's serving a large number of people necessarily.
That is funny that emphasizing that it's a singular thing turns it into an event. How weird is language?
Yeah. And one time I was getting some people together, making a gumbo. And earlier that day, I think I was going to get ingredients for it actually. I was on my bike and my bike, the shaft of my bike pedal snapped in half.
Oh.
And I cut my leg open on like the broken end of the shaft. And like went inside and I cleaned it and I put some medical tape on it and it was fine. And I went and got ingredients and spent the rest of my day doing my chores. But when I got down to stirring the roux for the gumbo, I was sitting there at the stove for, like 25 minutes in. I've been standing there and the muscles in my leg were like straining a bit just from standing in one position for so long. And the medical tape starts to come loose, and I'm like bleeding down my leg and bleeding onto the floor. And I was home alone, and I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to finish the roux before I could go take care of my leg. So we bleed for our food in Louisiana, literally. Like it's you do not leave the roux. It is like the 11th commandment.
I mean, we were serious about this masochism thing and this guilt thing. Yes, what will happen if my friends come over and we have to order pizza?
Yeah, that's unforgivable.
No, it is like because it's an event. It's so funny. Like you do invite people over for jambalaya and stuff, but like gumbo more often.
Yeah.
And because like gumbo's the most preparation intensive dish we have, I think.
Of the most common.
Of the common ones, yeah. And it also is the one that most frequently has a deadline attached to it. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why don't we make salad for our friends? April's not going to dignify that with an answer. Do you go in the same pattern over and over and over again, or do you?
I don't know. People can analyze my patterns
improvise?
if they want to.
I feel like you could tell
always,
fortunes with this.
Kind of mixing it up a little bit. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Romancy.
Yeah. This is like it's like tea leaves.
Absolutely. You have to watch. So, Mafo, here, can you do me the favor of just like drawing your initials in the roux right fast, and we're just gonna see. So, like, just give us an M. We got to do it with the flat part, because we got to see how fast it fills in. Okay. And then and then your second one's an M, so that's also kind of unremarkable.
Yeah.
Well, it's very dreamy, whatever it is. I'm not sure how to analyze what pictures form. We need to look close. It's like clouds. I think I saw a face in there for a second.
And I love like the texture of a roux. My wife makes fun of me because she says I'm sexually attracted to gumbo. It's hard to deny because I do, like the noises I make when I watch myself stirring a roux, it's just kind of obscene.
Now, you are one of the most satisfying people to give food to, because you're not just doing it for the things that you make. You also have beautiful reactions to other people's food when it's done well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a quality of like giving hospitality that a lot of folks here have, but there's people who you just love to give hospitality to, and you definitely you fit both groups.
We've still got some bubble action going on, but you can see it is getting a shade darker.
Yeah, we've gone from sort of a pale flower color to kind of more of a cornmeal yellow.
Yeah. I could probably be a little more daring and
raise the difficulty settings a little bit. You got this. This is funny because go ahead.
You do get in kind of a zen state when you stir a roux. Like you kind of lose track of time. It's very meditative. So I enjoy it. I mean, we talk about it, being hard and it taking time and all that, which is true. But there's something, it's a special thing that you do. It's ritualistic, I would say.
Well, and for all the work that goes into it, you are rewarded with steady indicators of progress. You get to see the color change. Yeah. And you are rewarded with a very satisfying end product. So it's like, it is hard work that has clear benefits on the other side, which is not true of all hard work. Yeah, you are somebody whose life is sort of strung together through food stories. Something I always enjoy about you, being less of a foodie myself. I get to see it becomes very clear how much food means to other people in my life when I see how much of their story repertoire is rooted in this time I was making a roux, this time I tried this new recipe, whatever it is.
And one time I was over at my in-laws, and my father-in-law, I was looking through my phone, I was showing people pictures, and he was like, you have a lot of pictures of food in your phone. And I don't have an Instagram to post them on or anything. It's not like sharing the food that I'm eating. It's just to remember that dish that I ate, basically.
Amazing.
And also because, it's tied to memories. It's tied to specific events and specific people and things like that. So
Totally.
That's also kind of an aspect of it.
Yeah, well, and you're a very bold cook. Like, for this being a very traditional dish you're making right now, you make things from all over the place.
Yeah.
So, saving a repertoire of ideas, too.
For sure.
Because your mother is part Greek
Yes.
and makes all manner of Greek and Greek adjacent stuff. Also, bakes like no one I've ever met. You got a pretty wide vocabulary.
Yeah. Speaking of
In the
food
family.
stories.
Ooh, I think that got a little browner since I was last looking.
Yeah, you can see it smoking a little bit. I'm going to turn it down some so it don't cause problems. Yeah, with the cast iron, because the cast iron retains heat so well, you have to be careful with how hot you have it going. Oh, so it just started just now. So around this point, when it starts to get about this color, it smells like popcorn.
It does.
Yeah. And my cat, I closed in the other room because I know she'd be up in our business if we were trying to make food. Whenever I'm making a roux, when it gets to this point, she'll always be like up on the cabinets above the gumbo. She would do this really and notice after making, because I only make gumbo a few times a year, maybe 2 times a year. And so it doesn't happen often enough for you to like notice patterns until after like 2 or 3 years of making gumbo. So it's like every time I make a gumbo, she's up there. So I don't know if it's something about the smell that like lures her in.
Does she come in when popcorn is being made?
No, actually. Weird. At least not that I've noticed. But my wife is usually the one to make the popcorn, so maybe I'm just not paying attention.
It's getting almost like pumpkin puree orange.
And here you can see the bubbling has mostly, maybe entirely stopped, so the water has boiled out. At this point, it's just stirring and getting darker. And the longer you stir it and the darker it gets, the more the flour breaks down and the less it acts as a thickening agent. Mm-hmm. So depending on how thick you want your gumbo to be, that's going to affect how long you're going to cook your roux. If you're using other thickeners alongside a roux, you may want to get a little bit darker. And the darker you get it, generally people believe the flavor deepens, it gets more complex. Some people suggest there's been, I would say, a trend in recent years to get a roux as dark as possible, which I will say is not necessarily super traditional. Like a lot of people back in the day, especially older people, will be like, yeah, I just do like a dark brown. Like it doesn't have to be like black.
I'm talking about smell.
But there is kind of like a daringness to like how dark can I get? How dark can I go?
And what's the line at which it just becomes carbon?
Yeah.
So like, how do you describe? Because like obviously this would have a very strong flavor if you ate it by itself, but it is going into a very complex.
Describe the flavor as volcanic. Yeah, there's actually one of the nicknames for roux is Cajun napalm.
Oh my God.
Because it's very, very hot because it's just hot oil.
Have a bubble pop once, and I'm sure you learn where that name came from.
And because it has flour in it, it sticks to you.
Ugh.
So it's like a very, very hot adhesive.
Why do we do this?
That's why we stir slowly. We don't want to splash.
Keep it asleep. Don't wake it up.
Yeah.
You know, and what would you say is like the flavor that it expresses in the final product? Like
that also kind of varies depending on how dark you go.
Yeah.
Generally, if it's this shade or even up to like a darkish brown, you're gonna have like kind of a nutty flavor to it. But it gets a little, I would say as it gets darker, it gets harder to define. It becomes more, in my mind, more distinct. I have less references to compare it to. But it's a very satisfying flavor. And it gets like very dark.
Yeah, it's kind of not that there aren't plenty of umami ingredients in a gumbo, but it's like one more angle.
So often when I travel, especially if I'm staying with people or meeting people or anything like that, I'll try to cook like some Louisiana dishes.
Oh, people love it.
Which, yeah, it's always goes over like gangbusters, but it's always kind of a hit or miss situation in terms of like sourcing ingredients.
Yes.
Because there are some things that you can definitely get. You're always going to be able to find rice and chicken if you want to use chicken, onion, stuff like that. But you will be surprised by the things you can't find. Like I was traveling in Finland many years ago, and it's back when couch surfing was still very popular, and I was couch surfing with some people, and I was like, as a thank you for letting me sleep in your living room. I believe jambalaya. And jambalaya, like gumbo, uses the trinity, this mix of onion and bell pepper and celery. And in Finland, in the grocery store, I could not find celery. It's like things that you would, like andouille, I expect not to find, and I just used a different type of sausage.
Yeah, I think I made jambalaya with kangaroo sausage one time, which is a very low-fat sausage, so not really ideal, but it's,
Sure.
I just
Very
wanted to be
lean.
able to say that I'd done it.
Yeah, that's nice.
But no, it is, celery quite surprises me.
And a while back, just a couple of years ago, I was living in Spain for 9 months. My wife was doing a master's program over there. And we were in the north of Spain, in San Sebastian, or sometimes called Donostia, which is the Basque country. And in Spain, you can find like 2 types of sausage, or at least in the part of Spain that I was in. There's chorizo and variations on chorizo. And chorizo tastes very much like chorizo.
Yeah.
Especially Spanish chorizo. So there's no like avoiding that flavor. But they also had in the Basque country, there's like a Basque style sausage called chistorra, which is a very thin sausage, very thin and long, but it is smoked, I believe. And I made gumbo for a Halloween party that we threw for some of the other students in the program. We had people over and we watched some Halloween movies, and I made 3 different types of gumbo using one roux. So I made one roux, and I just split it up into 3 different pots, partly because we had some people who didn't eat pork. So I did one without sausage. And I wanted to experiment with the available sausages that I could work with. And so I made one with chorizo, and I made one with chistorra. The chorizo gumbo it was chorizo gumbo. That's what it was. It was all that it tasted like. It totally overwhelmed the flavor of everything else, which I did suspect, and that's why I did multiple versions. But the chistorra,
it'd be way too disappointing to learn that if that was all you made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chistorra gumbo was very good. It was a very good approximation of what like a andouille gumbo would be like.
What did you do with your third one?
So that was just chicken.
Huh? just straight chicken gumbo.
Yeah.
It's funny how weird that feels.
Yeah, and then my wife made some vegetarian red beans because we also had some vegetarians.
Man.
So
Louisiana food is like remarkably adaptable.
Yeah, people were very impressed.
I mean, you talking to me about the history of gumbo has very much, like the stories, the old recipes that we've looked up and so on, it really does emphasize how much like tradition is just a randomly selected point in history at which point you decide that things should stay the same. Because they have changed constantly. And like...
Yeah, and even 100 years ago, they're already arguing about what gumbo is.
Yes.
That's been constantly going on. That hasn't changed at all.
Totally. Like the very first newspaper mention we were able to find, and I remember like, so we got results for gumbo, spelled Gumbo, in the newspaper archives as early as 1880. And it was people like laughing at someone else's gumbo recipe. at how bad they thought it was.
Yeah, like they said, "Is this a joke?"
Yes!
I thought it was a joke at first, and look, this is, and they gave them 3 different gumbo recipes.
And
They're
then
like, these are real gumbo.
And then we, using GOMBO, which is an older spelling, we found some earlier still mentions of it, and I forget whether any of them had, arguments about. But I'm sure people were like freaked out by the change in spelling for a while.
Yeah, and it's also worth pointing out that the 3 gumbo recipes that were provided by this person who was correcting the newspaper in the 1880s, while they bore a pretty decent resemblance to modern versions of gumbo, are also different in certain ways, like used ham instead of andouille being one of the notable differences. So, things constantly changing. There's always new ways of doing things that become tradition, and you kind of forget the old traditions sometimes, not always, but kind of fall by the wayside.
Well, and I had not realized, you told me this, that that certain very televised chefs had kind of played a role in how even we locally think about the right way to do things. That you get this kind of, in a place that says multicultural, where, you have some people who make gumbo with tomatoes, and that's Italian influence, and you have there's a little bit of German in a lot of things in Louisiana with the proliferation of sausage, and German's a big
potato salad
root. Yeah. So it is such a place of multiple practices side by side, often kind of bannered into one name, but where a TV chef who goes on and kind of appears to be this expert can, probably without having any idea they're doing so, have the effect of turning things into being a little bit more singular.
Yes.
Suggesting that there is a right way.
Yeah, so many people do it. Or even if it's just a popular way.
Yeah.
If enough people start imitating that style. Paul Prudhomme, I think, being the most pertinent example, one of probably the most influential single chef on Louisiana cuisine. Because he was so popular in the 70s and 80s.
Totally, and put Cajun food on the map in the first place, as far as people from outside Louisiana being aware of it and wanting it, and the fact that you can go in any state in the U.S., somewhere there is a Cajun taco for sale that has that is spicy, and that's the only thing it has to do. This idea of getting Cajun spice French fries and so on. Having the idea of Cajun having expanded nationwide and beyond, and having gotten kind of watered down to just ooh, it's spicy.
Oh yeah, that is when I was living in Spain, in places you'll see
really
Cajun, in the grocery store. There's a frozen Cajun chicken thing that you can buy.
Incredible.
And when I traveled to China, and in China, anytime I mentioned to people who were living in China, who were from China, that I was from New Orleans, the only reference point the majority of them had was New Orleans style chicken at KFC, because KFC is very popular, which is
God, I got the same thing there. Yes.
Because Popeyes is the Louisiana chicken chain.
100% no. If you told people in New Orleans KFC is the chicken that appears to be representing them out in the world, there would be some degree of revolt.
Yeah.
You could form kind of partisan lines in Louisiana between Popeyes and Cane's probably, but as far as really widespread fast food, Popeyes is kind of understood to be the one.
Yeah.
Here, but fast food in China is a very different thing.
And also, it's like Guinness in Ireland, the notion that the closer you get to New Orleans, the better the Popeyes tastes. Maybe that's why it doesn't do well in China. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember whether I saw it there at all. I mean,
so I did see. I think they had Popeyes in Spain, from what I recall, in Madrid. But... All right, it's getting darker and darker.
I don't think we've had the opportunity to make Louisiana food for anybody in Asia, but I do suspect our friends who live there probably have. And
I did when I was visiting Japan. I was visiting a friend of mine who lived there in Osaka for a while. There was at the time, I think it's closed since then, which is unfortunate. There's a restaurant called New Orleans Bistro, which is run by a guy from New Orleans, Cisse Hedel, who, great guy, very friendly. Great personality. And great cook as well. His food is very good, and he did mostly like kind of standard New Orleans style dishes, but he did a little bit of like Japanese fusion. In particular, he did like a Cajun karage, which is like the
Ooh,
Japanese style of
that's
fried
fun.
chicken, using like Cajun spices.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's that like edge to it, which is nice.
Man.
It's kind of like a hub for a lot of the like, American folks who lived in Osaka.
Yeah, it's
That area.
funny. Even being so, like, I'm not the world's best cook by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm pretty all right, and I can learn whatever I set my mind to. And I have gotten way more accolades than I deserve for like going places and making an okay jambalaya where just jambalaya is not available. And so as I've imagined throughout the years, like what would I do if I left Louisiana? Like, well, you just make Louisiana food just about anywhere, and we can ride that reputation, ride those coattails. Maybe a little unreasonably, but you could do it. You could get away with it. That's looking real pretty. What do we want to call this color? Where are we on the paint color palette?
It's teddy bear brown.
Teddy bear brown,
You're real
adorable.
specific with the colors.
I think my teddy bear was a little bit more dark chocolate, but
So, speaking of the Basque Country,
speaking of the Basque country,
so for anyone who isn't familiar with
the politics of Spain
yeah,
and France.
so the Basque people are the inhabitants of like northern and kind of northeastern Spain and like southwestern France, like that kind of cusp where they meet on the Bay of Biscay, and they are like their own like cultural ethnic group. They speak a totally different language than the French or the Spanish.
Like one of
Not
the
a Romance
very
language.
last leftovers of the languages that were in Europe before the Indo-Europeans migrated in and brought like Proto-Celtic and Proto-Italic and so on in. Like almost everything that's spoken in Europe now is this layer of paint that just obliterated what was there before. And this is like a tiny bit of the old color peeking through.
Yeah. And so it's unrelated, as far as we know, to any other living language. And it's not part of like a language family. And looks totally different from like French and Spanish. And I lived there for 9 months. And then shortly after I got back to New Orleans, I was giving tours again. And for the first time in my entire career of giving tours, this woman who's on my French Quarter History tour, where I talk about, the colonial history, and we were under French and then Spanish rule for a period of time. She asked, "Oh, you're French and Spanish. Were there any Basque people in New Orleans?" I was like, "Funny that you should ask that," because I'd just been living there, but I didn't actually know about like the Basque history of New Orleans, or they had any Basque people living here. And I got curious, so I looked it up. And luckily, someone else had done the research for me. There was like a 40-odd page thesis that someone had written about Basque people figuring in New Orleans history. And for the most part, there weren't any like big standout historical figures. These were people who were maybe like colonial administrators or civic leaders or businessmen and things like that. So not making the history books, but important on like a local level.
Movers and shakers during their lives,
Yes,
but
exactly.
yeah.
And lots of Basques are sailors. Their first whalers were Basque. And so you also had a lot of Basques coming in because it's a port city. And I would say the most notable figures who came up were the Lafitte brothers, Jean and Pierre Lafitte, who were not Basque themselves, but who were born in Bayonne. Which
Our
is,
very famous pirates, yeah.
And so they were born in like the Basque part of France and presumably grew up around Basque people and I believe employed a few. And then I read about there was a guy who set up a Basque guy who set up a grocery store, and he eventually started selling like tonics and herbs and spices and things like that, and they got more and more popular, more and more successful, and they eventually started a whole spice label, which you see right here, Zeterans. It's a Basque name.
Which, you know, it's one of those things, you grow up around stuff and you're just sort of blind to it.
Yeah.
So as much as, like, I love looking at words and being like, where does that come from?
Never even occurred to me look at because
Yeah,
it sounds kind of French, especially the way maybe the way that we pronounce it might be a bit
totally.
different from
And it might have been respelled or something. But yeah, so Zatarans is everywhere in Louisiana. It's just one of those, like, it's the water you swim in kind of things.
And this is one of these fascinating things about being a tour guide is you end up learning a lot about stuff that has nothing to do with the subject that you're, or is only very loosely connected to the subject.
Oh,
that you're
for
talking
sure.
about.
Like, when
You
will
go down
that?
these rabbit holes.
Also, if you tried to say on a tour regularly, like, end a story with, and that's where Zatarans comes from,
It just wouldn't fly.
no one will understand that. That's a thing for Louisiana people and people who grew up nearby. Like, so you're not, generally with a tour, you are not dealing with a primarily local audience, but.
Yeah, so you just have this kind of repository of obscure facts that you just hope someone asks a question close enough to that you can like pull that out.
Whereas even the
already very
Louisiana-born
satisfying.
people that ask us about stuff are asking us about, like, ghost stories and stuff a lot of the time.
But every now and then.
The
once a year or
ghost
so.
of the Zatarans. Yeah. No, that was a super cool discovery to make. It's funny, like, we really don't talk a lot about, like, French or Spanish regionalism at all, where there are such different and sometimes really contentious different groups over there, but we talk about France and then Spain as just kind of like singular forces in the founding of the city. And I like, I have not spent, I've never been to France. I've spent only like a little bit of time in Spain. And when you get over there, you can feel the regional differences more. But like, like learning that Andres Almonaster, the fellow who rebuilt a lot of Jackson Square, followed then by his daughter doing another big phase of rebuilding. So like very, very big iconic buildings, and he's in a stained glass window, and the buildings flank the square are named after her. Yeah, so these people are all over the place. And they were Valencian. They were from, or he was Valencian. He was from that part of Spain. And in telling the significance of Cajun versus Creole, like one of my favorite ways to talk about it now is using him, because I'll often have introduced him on a tour before parsing Cajun and Creole.
Yeah.
And explaining like Valencia is where paella comes from. And someone who missed paella, but then had to eat it in a form that was based on Louisiana ingredients and would inevitably have been made by an enslaved person a lot of the time. You get this fusion thing, and out pops jambalaya. And that
this is also very similar to the West African dish Benachin.
Yeah, so
Which,
you have.
I mean, putting rice and meat together is not, a ground.
Not the cleverest thing in the world. Yeah, yeah.
It is, like very clear influences kind of converging.
Totally.
Creating something, a bit new or distinctive.
And when you eat Benachin, it's more like jambalaya than paella is to me.
Paella, which has saffron and typically seafood.
It looks different, tastes different.
Jambalaya favors, usually, you can get seafood in it sometimes, but you almost always have chicken and sausage.
But to think of jambalaya as something that's rooted in regional cuisine in both Spain and Africa, I know it sharpens up that sense of like, oh, these people who came over here were probably very different from one another and formed sectarian differences within themselves. The Lafittes might have employed Basque people for a reason. Yeah, makes you wonder. I would love to dig deeper into that, but that's one where, because you said like the Basque stuff you found was from like a thesis that somebody wrote. And I have learned so much cool stuff by just digging up academic papers that have been accessed like 5 times ever.
Yeah.
But I have not found papers about anything to do with French or Spanish regionalism yet.
Yeah, that's a bit more niche.
A niche within niche.
Yeah, but then it gets you wondering, like, in terms of, is there any Catalan influence in New Orleans? Is there any, we lived briefly in Germany and near the French border in like the Alsace-Lorraine area. And for Christmas, we went to Strasbourg and other parts of Alsace. And the Alsatians kind of had their own, because they had that French and German mixture, and because it kind of got bounced between the two countries over the course of several hundred years, and they had their own, really their own language. I think it was significantly different enough from both French and German that it could be considered its own language, or at least a very distinctive dialect. And they mostly speak French and are French now, and have been since World War II. But were historically like pretty distinct from like the other people in France. Something you don't think about a lot is that these countries that are, France or Spain, were until very recently very regional areas.
Yeah.
And like French only became the dominant language in France in like the 16 or 1700s. And then you start to wonder, like, well, how do all these individual cultural influences not only inflect French culture more generally, what we think of as French culture, but also like, how does it affect Louisiana culture?
Totally. Because 1700s, well, that just happens to be a really relevant time frame for us.
Yeah. And in particular, I do know, and this is something I should actually look up, because a lot of the Germans who came here early on, you had a lot of propaganda trying to get people to settle in Louisiana during the colonial period. And this included not only French people, but also some Germans who lived in like, the Alsace-Lorraine area. So a lot of the Germans who came here initially, were from that region.
Gotcha.
Like the German coast and all that, which is upriver from here.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that specifically had like a cultural impact here.
Yeah, well, and the German thing is so surprising to a lot of folks, and it's just, it's a lot of it has kind of vanished from visibility, but you have like that area called the German coast, and the town called Des Allemands. Them Germans up there.
Germans.
So now we are we're about the 45-minute mark, and this is the color we've achieved. Okay. So how are we feeling?
Maybe a little more daring in my. I turned it down because of the smoking.
Yeah. I feel like we're in chocolate range now. Quite a mild,
very milky chocolate. Yeah.
Maybe more of a caramel, but
yeah. I don't think I'm gonna go like deep dark with it.
What's your record?
I've gotten it pretty dark. I can probably provide some visual illustration.
Do you remember how long it took? Your longest one?
45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Probably. I don't think I've ever gone more than an hour storing a room.
I mean, today could be the day.
It could. Because I'm being, I think, a little bit more conservative, because I really don't want to burn it on video.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all who are watching this don't need to know that we did 7 takes.
Don't tarnish my reputation that way.
No, this is Matthew One and Done Morris. That's what we call him. First time, every time.
It's looking very sexy, I gotta say. Not beating allegations.
I mean, look how revealing it is in moments.
Right? I love how it like so slowly it kind of closes in on itself.
And look, beauty can't be explained. If you who are watching
we'll do it in slow motion to really like emphasize it for y'all.
Could you, Mafo, just do me the kindness of making some of the noises that this would inspire out of you?
I might get censored on YouTube if I do. Get too,
and see,
saucy with it.
You and I, when we used to make food together, we would sometimes just stir things and just go like.
Yeah, provide the sound effects.
It's a little bit less provocative. I don't know, maybe.
You You can tell we run out of things to talk about because we're just making sound effects at this point.
You and I run out of things to talk about? Never. No, I've learned a great many new things about gumbo from you working on concept for this video together. So just adding in the experience of being with you through the entire roux making process just feels so appropriate. What are your other Louisiana specialties? I feel like this is what I've had from you for the most part.
Yeah, so gumbo and jambalaya are probably the ones I make jambalaya most often, partly because it's kind of
Easier, yeah.
Which, to my wife's dismay, she's not the biggest jambalaya fan. Like, she likes it okay, but she prefers gumbo and etouffee and things like that.
Etouffee is one I've never tried.
Yeah.
I have never made anything with crawfish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Never once.
Yeah, I will say crawfish can be a little bit expensive if you're getting it. You're either buying it in a sack with the shell on, you got to shell them all, which is...
Or you're buying tails, which
runs kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Especially if you buy them locally.
Have you ever noticed that the poster behind you is perfectly roux colored? Maybe I'm just having a yellow wallpaper moment. I don't know. Yeah.
The blonde roux or the brown roux or the
the utterly black roux. Yeah. This really explains why you chose that poster subconsciously, anyway.
Yeah, but etouffee is one of my favorite dishes, one-pot dishes to make. I just really love etouffee. I just really love the flavor of etouffee. Etouffee is also, it's one of the more obscure foods. It's not obscure, but it's one of the lesser knowns outside of the state. I think gumbo and jambalaya.
Sure.
Probably because they're in the Hank Williams song.
I mean, how often do people ask for crawfish pie? I feel like the Hank Williams song was not enough to make some things happen, but
the etouffee is, I often describe it as being between gumbo and jambalaya. Gumbo being a soup, jambalaya being like a rice mix.
Etouffee being in the middle.
Yeah,
but
so more like gumbo in the sense that the rice is cooked separately and etouffee is served on top of it, but it's much thicker typically than gumbo is. Etouffee means smothered in French, so that you're smothering the rice with this really thick sauce. It's like gumbo, like certain types of jambalaya, it's roux based. Certain types of gumbo, I should say. There are non-roux gumbos.
That's right.
We're not about cultural erasure here. And to kind of demonstrate, so generally, the rule with etouffee is it's usually lighter colored. If you're making a Creole etouffee, it usually has tomato in it. Partly it's lighter colored because you want it to thicken more. But just to demonstrate that there really aren't any rules, my mother makes this astonishingly good etouffee, which breaks probably every etouffee rule there is. She uses butter to cook her roux. I think it's like a clarified butter. And she uses this butter roux to make the darkest roux I've ever seen, like pitch black. And she serves it with, she does use crawfish and shrimp are like the standard etouffee proteins. But she serves it over grits instead of rice. And it's so good. And even my brother-in-law, who's like real Cajun, like dyed-in-the-wool Cajun, and makes the best gumbo I've ever had in my life, loves her etouffee, even though it is very counterintuitive in terms of what you would generally, asking someone in Louisiana how they do etouffee is not going to be anything like that.
No,
so it's always about trying new things and seeing what you can do and
tradition is great, but delicious is even better.
Yes, that's the thing.
And
all tradition should steer toward maximal deliciousness.
Absolutely. If it's not delicious, then let it live in the history books. let the pages of the book be the only tongues that taste it. I feel like
that's very just eloquent.
I feel like somewhere in there, when you were mentioning the absence of any real rules and the fact that there are gumbos without roux, that someone was Whoa, wait, I can make gumbo without having to do this ridiculous ordeal?
Yeah.
So, our alternatives. You said you've never made a non-roux based gumbo.
I've always done roux-based gumbo.
Yeah.
So so like I said, there's roux alternatives where you bake the flour, what have you. And then you have other types of thickeners that can be used in gumbo, which include okra, which comes from the West African influence on the local cuisine, and filet, which we've got right here, which is ground and powdered sassafras, which is what the indigenous people of Louisiana used to thicken soups and stews and things, and which became incorporated into the gumbo tradition.
So my partner's mother, who is Vietnamese from Vietnam, makes gumbo. And I actually am not sure. I've never watched whether she makes a roux or not, but she piles on the okra. And it is the sludgiest gumbo that I've ever had. It's also quite herbal. She, makes it to her own palate, but it's very traditional in some ways and less so in others. Mm-hmm. And but the use of okra can be more than enough. Is the point there?
Well, okra stews. I looked up some recipes. I tried to find some recipes. I could only find a couple for like West African okra stew, which is one of the kind of formative influences.
Yeah. I know nothing about this.
And very different. At least the recipes that you're going to see now are very different from what we think of as gumbo. They include cheese, like cheese curd.
Amazing.
And like cowhide, and fish, which you might see fish in gumbo, but generally it's going to be shellfish if you're doing a seafood gumbo, like oysters and things like that. Oyster, shrimp, crab. But called for like, I think 3 pounds of okra for a gumbo that's sort of maybe 9 people. So just like, I have got maybe a pound. I don't even think it's a pound of okra that I'm going to put in this one.
Yeah, like way out of frame, but a comparable amount to the other vegetables, to any single ingredient of the Trinity.
Yeah. And so you can use okra. Okra would be, and now you can combine thickeners, so you can do okra and roux, or okra and filet, or filet and roux. There's, according to some people, a rule that you can't do all three. That rule is regularly broken. It's not going to explode if you put all three in it.
I think we've done all three at our house before.
But you can have an exclusively, like a just okra gumbo, or a just roux gumbo, or one that's just filet. And main difference with filet, insofar as it differs from okra and the roux, with both okra and the roux, you're going to simmer the gumbo with that stuff in it to help it thicken. A filet gets weird if you keep it on the heat too long. So it's added once you take the pot off the heat, or right before you take it off the heat. And you often, if you're doing like a filet gumbo, you add in a lot, typically. You've got interesting variations. I mentioned before, Brightson, he has a recipe for a gumbo where he puts the filet into the roux when he's sauteing, because you saute the vegetables, the Trinity, in the roux. And so he mixes it in with that. So it doesn't really serve as a thickening agent. And it doesn't affect you don't get the weird texture that you get, I guess, because the sauteing breaks down the roux and the filet enough. But apparently it keeps like the essence of the flavor of the filet. So that's a very non-traditional, but also totally viable way of making it.
Yeah, put a real great chef's name on it, and hopefully folks will give it a chance.
Yeah. I was reading a lot about, researching this video. I was reading more than I ever had before about filet gumbos. And a lot of people say that this stuff, like, this is just not really filet. It's like the best you can generally get.
Huh, really?
If you're living in the city, or even, I mean, if you're not going out and getting your own sassafras,
People
or
are
getting it from someone who does,
picking their own leaves off of their own trees.
and you have people who are like specialists in this, who like go and they get the filet and they lay it out and they dry it for like it's either 6 weeks or 6 months. 6 weeks is probably a bit.
Well, I mean, you took it right off of the household do-it-yourself menu right there.
But apparently when it's done that way, it's like a bright green color. So like much brighter, much more vividly green.
Got it.
And what you see there.
Yeah.
And you typically use a lot of it. You'll use a whole cup or more. Where usually if I use filet, I'm just adding it to my bowl.
Yeah.
It's just like a little bit.
Same. And it feels like more of a flavor thing.
Yeah. But some people swear by filet gumbo. My mother-in-law, who is an anthropologist who studied like French culture in Louisiana and things like that, her favorite type of gumbo is a filet gumbo.
No, it does feel like one of those conversation starters here, maybe on par with sports, like, you know, ways to polarize people or sort of bring out the intensity from them. Is to get into what feels right or what the favorites are.
Yeah.
By the way, we have passed over the chocolate line pretty firmly by now.
Yeah.
You know what this looks to me like a very milky Vietnamese coffee.
Yeah. Sometimes around this phase, I feel like am I making progress?
I know.
Like into like a sort of, has time stopped? Is everything meaningless? Like, I don't know.
Well, I can tell you time has not stopped because as you said that, we passed the 1 hour mark.
Okay. Well,
I mean, we started
I
recording
lied about never doing it over an hour.
I
always do it over an hour.
Maybe
don't keep very
the
good track of
trance.
time.
Just never mind that you have a clock right in front of you,
Yeah.
but the trance just makes the sense of time. Maybe your gumbo magic is enough to even slow the clock down. But yes, officially the video is over 1 hour now, which you started the heat exactly as I started the camera. So at most it's a lag of a few seconds. So congratulations on
the hour route.
Yeah.
And it really only is by watching a video like this, where I'm just doing this the whole time, can you really get a sense of how tremendously long it can take to do a roux.
Absolutely. And imagine if you were stuck doing this by yourself. Imagine if I and all the denizens of YouTube were not here to keep you company. Think of how crazy Mafo must go on other roux making occasions.
Yeah. But no, it is, like you said, the trance state. It's kind of where you end up.
We're sort of past the popcorn smell by now. How would you describe it? You have a better nose than I do.
I don't know, I've been smelling it for so long. It blends into the background at this point.
Yeah, but it smells toasty at this point. There's that.
It has maybe a bit of a nutty smell to it, like a roasted
nuts. Right on.
Like
Yeah. Yeah, this is like I roasted a bag of mixed nuts the other day, cashews and walnuts and all manner of things, and this was it. So while we will not have this part on camera, tell us about what you'll be doing with this roux afterwards. What's the next step?
So once the roux is done, we're gonna add the onion to the roux. And the onion will saute and it'll get hot and kind of bubbly and it'll hiss because all the moisture is coming out of the onion. And the roux also, I feel like it always gets darker looking once you add the vegetables to it to start sauteing. So you'll soften the onions in the roux. Then usually I do the onion first and let it soften for just a little bit. And then I'll add the bell pepper and the celery and let them saute. Mix that all together. And then once they've sauteed and once it's cooled down a little bit at least, I'll add the garlic because you really don't want the garlic to burn. And that can happen very easily if you add it to a very hot roux. So the garlic, and then I'll saute it all a bit more for 30 seconds or a minute. And then usually what I'll do is I'll get some of the stock, and a lot of people make the dish all in one pot. That's why we call them one pot dishes. I like to use the cast iron for the roux. So I'll saute it all in this, and then I'll add some stock to it to kind of temper the roux with the stock. And once it's nice and soft and creamy and it started to liquefy a little bit, once I've added enough stock to it, I'll add it to the stock pot with all the rest.
Yeah, so let us clarify, this was not step one.
Yeah.
Step one
Stock's over here.
was stock making.
And then all the other ingredients that are going to...
Step two was a whole lot of ingredient prep. Because you can't chop stuff while you're doing this.
Once the roux plus Trinity plus garlic is in the stock, once it's all mixed together, we'll add the andouille and the chicken and the okra and whatever spices, with the array of spices that I have back here to the mix. And actually sometimes I'll add some spices like pepper and things while I'm sauteing the roux and the veggies. And I've already sauteed both the sausage and the okra. I usually saute the okra in the sausage fat, partly because sauteing okra or soaking it in water with vinegar, I think is usually the method, is a way of kind of de-sliming it a little bit.
Because you're not using the okra for
so
thickening.
Much for thickening, yeah. So it's just there for a little extra flavor and a little more substance. And and I like the kind of that, getting the brown on it a little bit.
Yeah. No, yours has both of them have a nice little bit of char to them. And so all things told, this is going to be then you just have to let things be with each other for a while. So it's like a 4-odd hour process by the time it's all done.
Actively, maybe 4 hours. If you add in how long the stock takes to go, and then how long you'll simmer the gumbo, because usually, rule typically is you're going to simmer a gumbo for 2 to 3 hours before you want to serve it. And there's sort of a truism that gumbo is always better the day after you make it. Once it's had time to sit in itself and kind of absorb all of its own flavors and synthesize, it becomes optimal.
But this is here to be enjoyed today.
Yeah.
At least partly. Yeah, we said it is usually an event. What's the event for this one?
I have a friend coming in from out of town who I haven't seen since I got married a few years ago. And before that, hadn't seen for, I think, over a decade. So it'll be beginning because, getting married is not the best time to catch up with individuals you haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, you didn't have time to make gumbo that day.
Yeah. Have more time to catch up and hang out. And, of course, I want to welcome them in true Louisiana fashion.
And it is notably about as cold as it gets in Louisiana. Yes. It is in the 20s Fahrenheit, which is quite cold for us.
Yeah, so gumbo is...
Or us, South Louisiana anyway, that's quite cold.
Yeah. Gumbo is any weather food, but it is especially cold weather food.
Yeah.
And this is actually something you'll see with the choice of ingredients. The choice of the type of gumbo you're making will be affected seasonally by what ingredients are available. So, historically, if oysters are out of season, you probably weren't going to use oysters in your gumbo. And especially historically, you could only get okra during the summer. It's only in season during the summer. So you couldn't really make okra gumbos during the wintertime. And so people would use filet as the alternative to okra.
And winter is poultry season in general, so hence Thanksgiving turkeys and Christmas fowl and all that. So there was a place in the quarter.
It is a very warming dish, so it does.
Oh yeah,
it suits cold weather very, very well. And the fact that when they get cold weather in Louisiana every now and then,
It's true,
really
yes.
makes it kind of a special occasion.
When I say it's in the 20s
gumbo.
right now, like, it has not been that way all winter long. We've
Even
had
all
plenty of 70-something degree moments this
Yeah.
winter. So we actually have to seize these cold moments to make gumbo when we get to. Yeah, Place in the Quarter made, I feel like the kind of, the little add-ons are where you get a bit more latitude with gumbo, even in the eyes of the purists. And they made for New Year's like a black-eyed pea gumbo. It was actually quite nice.
Yeah,
Threw a little texture into it.
I think I read that Donald Link, who's another local chef in several restaurants, he does either black-eyed pea gumbo or jambalaya. I would say that he throws some beans in there.
And our pal James made
Yeah, he
black-eyed pea
does
jambalaya for
jambalaya.
New Year's, which
Yeah.
was quite nice.
So you always, you get variations. They're very common. This is sort of the saying. You have, bless you.
Thank you.
You have as many types of gumbo as you have people making it. It's very true.
Yes, as many as there are descriptions of the color of the roux.
What are we at now?
Now, I mean, yeah, we are to a much less milky Vietnamese coffee at this point. I mean, now we're just comparing it to something else that could be any shade of brown.
Yeah.
But where are we at? This is
Mississippi River water.
Mississippi River in consistency as well.
Yeah. That's the silt right there.
Almost in smell. Yeah, well, it does. No, it fills in much more slowly now. Certainly, this would fertilize your garden if you threw it in. Yeah, we are in that vast open territory between caramel and chocolate. I had to keep telling myself it would taste like neither. Yeah, actually, this looks like stirring a very thin pot of hot chocolate.
Yeah. It's like 1 cup.
Which is something, that's right.
It's like the best hot chocolate in the world. You have to stir it for an hour and a half.
Look, I may do exactly that when I get home. Not exactly that, but you understand.
Yeah, it for sure is. See, if I put it up high enough, it starts smoking again. I don't know if that's an issue, but it is getting pretty close. I think I'll add the veggies very soon.
Yeah, you've made it to an hour 10.
All right. How about we go to an hour 15 and then we'll
Okay.
add the veggies.
Keep an eye on it.
This, I think, is dark enough. Like, it doesn't have to be... You can get darker than this. This is not a particularly dark gumbo, actually, or a particularly dark roux.
No, but it's very, very respectable.
Yeah.
And the flavor of the thyme will come through. I don't know if this was visible on camera, but Matthew just touched the burner knob and did not move it at all.
It's very subtle. It's the tiniest degree.
You just have to reassure it.
It's like,
I'm still here. You would not be the first cook to anthropomorphize your cooking implements.
No.
Does the spatula have a name?
No, I probably should name them. I've had them for so long. They're well seasoned.
Oh,
seasoned veterans.
Stirtha. Seasoned veterans.
I'm so sorry.
This is the delirium that one reaches.
Oh, tell them I broke a piece of okra earlier, and Andrew had the wonderful opportunity to say brokra. We were talking about how we love highly specific puns.
A portmanteau for no situation but that one, yes. More like brokra.
Yeah. I think it'll good. I think it'll be good to have. This is, I would say, a very characteristic roux. This is kind of a nice compromise. It's maybe not quite as dark as some Cajuns would get their roux. Maybe a little darker than some Creoles might get their roux.
Your friend has been living in California for most of his adult life.
Yeah, he's
So
he's from East Texas, which they know about gumbo there, but
They even get king cake there.
Yeah.
I drove through there. I saw signs for king cake on the way to Houston.
And I will say, like, the darkness of the roux varies not only from individual to individual, but depending on what type of gumbo they're making. So if you're making a seafood gumbo versus like a chicken and sausage gumbo, versus some other.
I mean, yeah, because you're not
gravy or
going
what
to
have
char seafood.
Yeah.
You'll like char sausage, and
So you'll often get like different shades, and people even disagree about like what, like, some people think seafood gumbo should have a darker roux than like a poultry gumbo. Other people feel the other way. So it's flexible.
even as I said, you're not going to char seafood. I was like, yeah, but what does that then mean you should do? Is have a dark roux to bring in the smoke, or do a light roux to harmonize with the lack of smoke?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And then you also have, and this is, we were talking about Paul Prudhomme earlier. One of his innovations, one of the things that he pioneered, is blackening.
God,
Which
yeah.
is where you like spice up usually fish, but sometimes they'll do chicken and stuff. Usually it's either fish or like shellfish, like shrimp or something like that.
Yeah,
You blacken it, so you like flash fry it at a very high temperature, and it gets this crust, but then it's very tender on the inside because you cook it for a very short amount of time. And people think of this as like a Cajun thing, but it's really something he invented.
And was nearly
popularized.
responsible for the blackening of the entire species of redfish. Like,
Yeah.
blackened redfish got so popular that like conservation efforts had to be upped to
Lord.
to help the poor population of them revive.
Yeah. Luckily, we got alligators off the endangered species list, so we can eat them.
So we can get back to alligator gumbo again. Yep. I mean, truly, you got to think about incentives with this stuff. Animals are not just food, but enough people think of animals as food that food can become a really persuasive way to make people want to save animals. Hard thing to wrap your head around. Let's save them so we can keep killing them.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the hour 15 mark.
All right, we're there. Cool.
You made it. What a pretty color.
Yeah.
I'd
It's
paint
nice.
a room that
This is
color.
good, I think this is good.
You know, the roux does not need
Respectable chocolate.
a color name. It is definitely in the chocolate world.
Not dark, not too milky.
Paint this color would just be called Cajun Roux. So the paint should be named after it, not it after the paint. He can't stop. He can't bring it. Well, because
it's hard. Yeah,
no, truly, once you put an onion in, you're committed to the next step.
Yeah. This is dark enough. Let's do it. Let's do it. We can't have these people watching for an hour and a half. Just me stirring.
You were seriously thinking about an hour and a half. Hour 15 is one thing, but an hour and a half, my God.
Yeah, that's a feature film. That's too much.
Ah, sizzle. Look how goopy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You can start to imagine the transformation of this into something you just could not resist.
And you see, it does get a little bit darker.
It did get darker.
Oh, that smell. Oh, I love that smell. It really brings out the nuttiness of the smell when you
Yeah.
have the vegetables.
No, it did. It made an immediate change.
Let's get the rest of these onions in there. And at this point, you don't have to worry as much about burning the roux. You do have to keep stirring it, but it's,
Are you changing the temperature when you get to this?
no, let's leave it where it is. Thank you. Got my sous chef right here.
That is the right role for me in the kitchen. I am a craftsman in the kitchen. Some people are artists. This might just be art.
And for reference, I think we saw earlier, I used a cup of flour to roughly like 3/4 cup oil, because the oil is going to weigh more than the flour is. So you do a roughly 1-to-1 ratio. And then I'm doing this for, in theory, it's about a gallon of stock. So proportions obviously will depend on what how thick you want your gumbo, stuff like that. How much you're making and so on. But I think this is for if you want to like a large amount of gumbo for like 10 to 12 people plus, about a cup of each is a good ballpark.
Afo wants the gumbo to barely fit in this pot.
I do. Now I do need to drain the stock. Or transfer the stock, I should say. I always am horrified of stories about people who have, boiled the stock for however long and they pour the stock out in the sink and just catch all the debris.
Oh no. Yeah, that's a bad oops. That's a big oops.
And for this is just a real basic chicken stock. A lot of people, if they're doing seafood gumbo, will put shrimp heads from the shrimp that they're using in their stock. Some people even put in the chicken stock. I didn't bother because shrimp can be a little pricey sometimes. So this is just chicken, veggies.
Ooh, that position.
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on, I'm getting nervous. I think it's fine, but to be on the safe
Now's
side.
not the time.
Yeah. There you go. You know what I'm gonna do? There we go.
That's a pretty stock. I'd invest in that.
How much wordplay can we fit into this video, do you think?
We could have done so much more.
I think you wanted to get a shot at the stock. Well, I guess you got a shot
That's
at me
okay.
pouring
Yeah,
the
yeah,
stock.
yeah, that counts.
Just burn it off there. All right.
This was all the rest of the chicken that is going in here.
Yeah. So I used 2 rotisserie chickens. 2 might be overkill, but I like a meaty. I like a full gumbo. Where's the trash can?
Oh, sorry, that's my bad.
It's all right. And just in case there's any a little bit of stock left in here.
Don't lose a drop.
There we go. I'll put this round over here.
That sizzle, y'all. Getting very low returns from this last phase of the work. Squeezing a stock is like stirring a roux.
All right, I'll add the garlic in. I'll just let that go just coat it, let it go for a little while.
I hope anyone who doesn't know gumbo well is starting to understand the joke that was made when I said, why don't we serve salad to our friends? Because this gumbo does have one fresh ingredient, and it's this one piece of celery, which will be a garnish.
Add some pepper. You can add more pepper than it feels like you should because you're also adding it to the stock. You can also flavor to taste once the gumbo's all combined.
So we're not allowed to say that's too much pepper.
Hell nah. All right, let's see. A little bit of white pepper. I use white pepper pretty sparingly because it's got a taste to it.
What we got next? Let's go
Cayenne, which I do not use sparingly.
My God.
There we go. At this point, we can turn off the burner.
This was another thing that seeing the old recipes that we read in the newspapers did not seem like there were like spice-oriented ingredients.
Yeah, I think probably my guess would be that they generally just, it was expected that you added those things and you just did it to taste.
Sure. That was like saying salt and pepper to taste as a last thing in a lot of American food. Sure, maybe.
So, add them some stock, mix it all together. And this really just ensures that the... Thank you.
Go on. Elaborate.
Ensures that the gumbo and the roux combine nicely.
Yeah.
You can see it's getting that muddy quality to it.
Otherwise, if you do this wrong, the roux just sits on top of the stock.
I have had, there's like one thing, because I have heard about roux and stock separating and not like properly combining.
I thought I was saying something stupid.
So I thought I had that happen once. I did eventually like mix it combined well enough. I'm not sure if it's like a real concern or just something that kind of freaks people out sometimes.
It's a nightmare
Yeah.
that cooks have.
But I have heard about that. In fact, it's not quite as smooth as I'd like it to be right now. There we go, it's getting a little better. And this kind of just helps temper the roux, so the roux and the stock are roughly the same temperature when you combine them. Isn't it visually appealing?
It really is.
It is on some level. It's very brown and
can see you
funky.
were joking, but no, there is. It looks very foodie. Where roux does not necessarily scream, "This is edible." I think by now we're very clearly in edible territory.
I'll take this heavy ass.
Oof.
All right.
Lick it clean. I need to come around.
Yeah. Get some more, and then usually what I do is I'll pour some of the gumbo into the pan.
Oh, sure.
To try to get up every little bit of roux. Because you want all that. You worked hard for it, so you deserve it. And that's still on the thin side. Gumbo being thin is not a bad thing. we talk about thickeners, it doesn't have to be thick, thick, thick. It's still a soup. Or depending on how you make it, somewhere maybe between a soup and a stew.
Also,
but it does, because you simmer it for a while, it does tend to thicken up. And as you add ingredients to it, it'll also get a bit.
Yeah, totally. There is no okra or chicken or sausage in here yet. So
yeah,
lots more to come.
But the hard part's done. There we go.
Congrats to you for that.
All right, and chicken. I hope there's enough room in this pot. That does become a concern sometimes.
You'll just get there. I'm going to film it with each new phase of ingredients added. That's with chicken.
That's with andouille. That's about 1.5 pounds of andouille. I would have used more, but it came in a 1.5 pound package, and I didn't want to get 2. That would be too much. Usually I do about 2 pounds. Raw andouille. Okay, here we'll, touchable, close enough.
Just first degree burns.
And then bring that up to a boil and let it simmer. It does look like it's separating a little bit, which is upsetting. But I think it'll resolve.
Ahem. That's better.
Let's see. Add some spices.
Pro tip, if you want to make it look like your roux is darker, just add paprika.
pretty sparing with the Italian herbs. I'll add a little bit of salt, but I usually fine-tune the salt near the end. I will add some more pepper.
What's different about pepper added at this phase, you ask? There's more of it.
That is not all I'll be putting in there, but that's all I'm putting in there for now. Gotta be careful, it's very full.
Rafa knows the size of this pot exactly.
Also,
when determining the size of your recipe, it really pays to start from the volume of your pot and work backwards.
yeah. I did not used to add hot sauce directly to my gumbo.
Save that for an individual discretion thing. What changed your mind?
I saw my brother-in-law Kite, who makes the best gumbo I ever had, just empty an entire bottle of Crystal.
Is that what you're doing right now?
No, I'm not as bold as him, and my gumbo probably won't be as good. But I think I could do more than that. But there you go.
Don't be fooled, friends. That's blood.
The blood from my leg wound when I was stirring the roux.
You wanted that to make it sound like this gumbo was worse, but I actually think that makes it better. A bit of umami to counter the salty of the sweat and tears.
All right, it's gonna come to a boil. We turn it down to a simmer. Let it simmer for a long time, several hours.
Forever.
It'll thicken up a little bit, but not too much. That's mostly what the gumbo will look like.
Yeah, we'll do a final results moment.
Yeah. And then you make rice, and you serve it over rice.
No! No more cooking!
And if you're really ambitious, you can make potato salad and either plop it in there or use it instead of rice, which is not something that I agree with on principle, but some people do it. To me, you have to have, like, the rice combines with the gumbo nicely, whereas the potato salad and gumbo tend to be kind of oil and water a little bit. But it is nice. It's really nice. I really like the potato salad and gumbo, which is very common in like West Louisiana, Cajun country.
The one time someone made that for me, which was in lieu of rice. In that case, it was gumbo over potato salad. It was like, there's a lot more like fresh vegetables in potato salad, so there's more bite to it, and it's much more tart. So it changed. It's a completely different thing to me.
And it's such a different flavor from the gumbo that it kind of like both mellows out and complements it. Yeah. You've got the warm and the hot. Some people don't put it directly in. Some people just have potato salad on the side.
And it's all going the same place in the end, as my grandfather loved to say. And yet you could never get him to mix beef into his ice cream. And with that,
we didn't make roux gumbo together more often. Just hang out and
sign me up. Foolery.
Just make dumb jokes.
All right, signing off.
All right.